Hi there, this is Crystal, and today I'm working on a 12 by 12 layout using my October-November stash kit. I shared that kit on my channel. I'll be sure to link that down below in case you haven't seen it, but I have narrowed things down a bit. It was a large kit and I was feeling a little bit overwhelmed, so I decided to pull just a few things out to work on this layout. So I have my photo. This is of our two dogs back in 2016, so it's a bit of an older photo, but I had never scrapped it, so I wanted to get it scrapbooked. It's a very fall photo, so I thought it would work well with this kit. And then I've pulled out a few papers. So this is from Vicki Boutin's Wildflower and Honey. It's one that I've already cut into a little bit. Then I have an exclusive from Hip Kit Club, a sheet from Dear Lizzie's Stargazer, a sheet from One Canoe Two's Goldenrod, and then an old one from Studio Calico. This is from the Countryside Collection. So those are the ones that I have pulled out. I'm thinking of using the navy blue on both of these, that side. And then I've pulled out a few embellishments as well as a sheet of white cardstock. So I have just a little stack of embellishments from the kit over here. And then the one thing that I didn't include in my kit, and I didn't talk about this in my video, but I thought I'd share now, I don't have any alphas in the kit. That's because I plan to just pull from my stash for each layout as I need them. So for this one, I have not pulled an alpha, but I've pulled a phrase thicker set. So this is from Patio Party from Jen Hadfield. There are several on here that might work, so it's just going to depend on spacing and what looks best with the finished layout. So I know I'm going to create some layers behind my photo. I think I'm probably going to center the photo and then maybe do a spray of leaves or something similar around the edge, but we shall see how it goes. So I'm just going to put you on fast forward and get started. So because I'm working with a white background, I'm going to use the papers as layers behind my photo. So I'm going to start with this navy blue paper from Vicki Boutin. I really liked the way that it added some contrast around my photo. So it pulls out the darker tones in the photo, and I think it just really makes it stand out against all of these other papers. So I'm going to start by just adding a thin border of that. And you could see I had already used that paper. I just needed that thin border, so I just used the part that I had already cut out. That saves a bit of paper that way. And then I'm going to add this navy blue gingham print. Again, just a thin border of that around the entire photo. And those are going to be the only ones that I go around the entire photo. I don't like things to look too pyramid-like. I don't like them to look too symmetrical and perfect. So I generally add a couple, one or two borders all the way around the photo, and then I just kind of add more wonky layers around the rest of it, and I really like that look. So that's what I'm doing here. I cut off just a strip of that Dear Lizzie paper and added it to the left side of my photo, and then I'm going to do the same thing with this One Canoe 2 paper, except I'm going to tear the bottom of it. I made this one a bit wider than the Dear Lizzie one, and I really wanted some texture, some additional interest, so I decided to just tear the bottom of that one, and then I'm going to do basically the same thing, just adding a border of this Studio Calico paper around part of the picture as well, not the whole thing. And I do trim off this bottom edge, but then I didn't like it sticking out below the torn edge, so I go in with my scissors and just trim off that little bottom piece. And those are going to be my paper layers. So like I said before, I'm thinking that I want just kind of a spray of leaves around this entire photo. And I had pulled these acetate leaves that were from Hip Kit Club. They were from the November 2018, I believe, Hip Kit. And I really love them. They're the reason I bought the kit. And I really want to make them kind of a feature on this page. So I'm going through and pulling out colors that work on this page. Not all of the colors that were in this pack work. So I'm adding the navy, the orange, the yellow, but I'm leaving the mint and the pink. I'm putting those back in the package for another project. They just didn't quite work with what I have on the page already. And I'm just kind of playing. I was trying to decide whether I wanted the leaves to go all the way around the photo, or if I wanted them just on the sides or just in the corners. I end up going pretty much all the way around, and I'm not gluing anything down yet. I'm just kind of playing around and seeing how I like it, making sure that I like the way it looks and that there's enough here to fill in all the spaces. But I realized pretty quickly that it's going to need something else. So it looks way too uniform, way too flat to just have these acetate pieces. So I'm definitely going to want to add something else. But first I'm going to go through the die cut pack that came in that same kit. This is, again, Hip Kit Club exclusive from November of 2018. And I'm just going to look through to see if there's anything here that might work on the page. I do find some phrases. There are some leaves in this pack as well that I pull out, although I don't think I end up using any of them in the end, but I did pull them out just to have them in case. But they did give me the idea to create some of my own leaves, so you'll see me do that here in a second. But first I'm just going to pull out all the rest of the bits from this die cut pack that I think I might use. So there's a little heart and a banner with a phrase on it, and I pull out some other things, but I end up putting those back and just sticking with those couple of bits. So then I also looked at this puffy sticker sheet that was from that same kit. I really like these puffy stickers. I think they're adorable, but I've had a really hard time using them for some reason. So I tried to get some on this spread, and it just didn't work. But I did find these wood veneer pieces. These are just from Dollar Tree. But they have some wood veneer leaves. They have little foam adhesive dots on the back of them. So I pulled out 3 of those to spread around the page, and then I also grabbed the Vicki Boutin butterflies from her newest collection, Wildflower and Honey, and I only pulled the ones that had just kind of blues and yellows. I left the ones that had the pink in the package for another project. Okay, so I had decided to create some of my own leaves. I have a couple tiny dies. I'm not even sure where these are from. I think maybe one is from Studio Calico, and one is probably one I just picked up off of scrapbook.com. And I used papers that I had already pulled out for this page, and then I added one yellow one from my stash kit. That's from the October Afternoon Peachy Cheap papers, and I just cut some random leaves in those 2 different shapes, and I'm going to spread those around the picture in with the acetate leaves just to give an additional texture and to add some more color and give it some interest. So I've done that, and I've also pulled out my little Xyron sticker maker, because that's what I'm going to use to adhere all of those acetate leaves down to the page. So you, if you have played with acetate at all, you know that it's rather difficult to get them adhered to the page. Any adhesive you use will show, but I found that the Xyron sticker maker is the best way to get some adhesive all over the back of them, and it doesn't really show. You can't really see it. So that's what I'm going to use. I won't make you watch me put all of these acetate pieces through my Xyron. Of course, those larger ones didn't fit, so I just had to add some adhesive to the part that I knew would be underneath the photo, and then they'll be plenty adhered. They aren't going anywhere, so that was plenty to get them added to the page. And then I'll start adding all these leaves to the Xyron and getting them all with some adhesive backing. So then they're basically like little stickers. So like I said, I don't make you watch all of that, but there they are, my big long strip of acetate stickers now. I just pull off that top piece and I can start adhering them down. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm just going to start creating basically little clusters all around my photo, making sure that I have a good distribution of shape and color. So when I find 2 that are similar, I make sure I put them on opposite sides of the spread. I make sure that each kind of little cluster I'm creating has a good balance of the different types of leaves and colors. I'm also sprinkling in some of those die cut leaves, the pattern paper leaves. And when I do that, I'm mostly adding adhesive only to the very bottom, and then I'm adding a little foam dot to the top. So that will make the top of the leaf kind of stand up, and that adds some interest and movement and dimension to the page instead of everything just being very flat on the page. Of course, I want it to look like a pile of leaves, right? That's the kind of look I'm going for. So there needs to be some dimension there. Okay, so I went away and did all of that. I didn't make you watch that. I also added my title because I needed to make sure there was a spot for it. So I left a gap in the leaves in the top right corner. and added the title together with that banner just above it. And then I also added a little heart from that same die cut pack that I had gone through before off to the left hand side. And now I'm just sprinkling some enamel dots all around the page to give it again another texture and to add some color to spread the colors around the page a bit more. And I'm going to adhere down this banner. And then I'm going to show you what the dimension on the page looks like here. So I'm going to hold this up and show you all that gorgeous dimension and layers. But my page is looking very off balanced. So I decide to add some paper behind it. So I'm going to cut down the sides of the page and add some papers. I'm just kind of auditioning which ones I want to use. I'm going to end up going with this Dear Lizzy paper. This is a wood grain print with some white hearts on it from Stargazer. And I'm going to cut off some strips from the sides of my layout, but I'm going to cut more from the left hand side because it was looking very right heavy. So I cut a bit more off of the left hand side, and I'm just trying to figure out exactly how much I want to cut off of the right hand side. And then I could have used a 12 by 12 paper, but because I had already trimmed some of this off, I'm just going to cut 2 strips of it and use a grid mat to lay it out. And I don't have a mat that's big enough for a 12 by 12 paper, so I just use this little one that I have, this little cutting mat, and I use the ruler on the bottom to line it up. So I'm going to line up the 2 strips at 1 inch and 12 inch and add some adhesive, and then I'm just going to kind of plop my layout on top of that, trying to get it lined up. I do fudge it up here and move one of the strips, so I have to realign it. But this is the easiest way I've found. You can also just lay it on top of another 12 by 12 paper and get it lined up that way. But I find the ruler is a little bit easier to deal with. And I didn't get it perfect. You can see it's still kind of off balance, but it's much better than it was. So that is good enough for me. The only thing I have left to do is to add my journaling. So I'm just using a brown pen and my T-square ruler and adding some lines in the kind of bottom corner of my page, and then I'm going to add a date stamp as well. I'm going to grab my Heidi Swapp date stamp and some brown ink from Hero Arts, and of course I have to look at the back of the photo because I can never remember the date and I always glue it down before I write it down. So I had to look, and then I'm going to stamp the date, and that's going to be it. So here is what the finished layout looks like, and there are some close-up photos as well. I really had fun playing with all of these supplies and putting this kit together. I have a lot more layouts coming up, so be sure to stay tuned for those. Thank you so much for watching today, and I will see you all back here very soon.